Basic Instinct 1992 Part 1. Our movie begins with a heinous crime against Mr. Boz, a rock and roll star who was stabbed 31 times with an ice pick. But it looks like he was under the influence of cocaine and has sex with somebody. His naked income filled the bed. Investigators were suspicious about his girlfriend Catherine. When they arrived, she talked to them and she knows what happened. She admitted that they were friends, but she doesn't love him. She only enjoys having sex with him, and she was with him last night. She slept with him but didn't come home with him. She appeared very daring in her words and wasn't hiding. The investigator asked her if she felt bad about his death. She said she was sad because she liked sleeping with him. Looks like an obsessed girl with sex. After the investigation report was released, investigators found no hard evidence to prove Catherine was guilty. There is no prints on the ice pick. But what's interesting is that she is a writer and she published a novel entitled Love Hurts last year under an alias. And on the page 67, you have the details of the same crime that took place. Dr. Lamette told them there were two possible options. Either the author committed the crime or someone committed the crime in the same way as in the novel in order to harm the author. If the author is the murderer, that means they are dealing with a devilish, perverted mind that has planted the crime for a long time and how to exonerate it itself through the book. If not, they are dealing with a very obsessed person who has an obsessional hate, so he ingrained that he kills an innocent person to involve the author in the crime. Either way, this is a very dangerous and very ill person. When the investigators went to bring Catherine to police station, her behavior seemed strange at home. He changed her clothes so she could turn the investigator on. And when they were in the car, one of them asked her if she was writing anything new. She said yes. It teaches you to lie because you write something queerable. And this is called suspension of disbelief, and the book title is The Investigator Loves the Wrong Woman. He asked her what happened next. She said she kills him. Even stranger. The investigator asked her not to smoke, but she paid no attention to what he said. The investigator asked her about their relationship. She said that she had been having sex with him for a year and a half, and there were no rules for sex, which is why she had such a good time with him. He asked her if she would like to tie him with a white scarf. She said no because Mr. Boz enjoyed using his hands. He asked her if she took drugs, and she replied that she occasionally took cocaine with Boz, and turned to investigator Nick and asked him if he ever tried to make love with cocaine. Nick had already a history of drug addiction. What a woman she is. She seemed to be trying to impress all the investigators, but she seemed pretty focused on Nick and knew a lot about him. Even she pretended not to know him. One of the investigators asked her about her book, and she said that she wanted to write a book about the murder of a rock and roll star. Then she met Boz, who is also a rock and roll star, and said she is a writer and she exploits people for her writing. She asked them to do a lie detection test, and the results showed that she was very honest in what she said. They therefore decided to release her, but investigator Nick wasn't satisfied. While he gave her a ride home, she told him, "Deceiving these machines is very easy, and you have succeeded in deceiving these machines after killing 2 men." When he got back, he went to the bar after quit drinking. This is strange. Then he came home with his girlfriend. She asked him why he slept with her in such a sadistic way. It's not his habit. All her clothes were torn. What has Catherine done to him? She's been messing with his mind or something. He asked for a cigarette after had quit a few months ago. Investigators discovered a crime that had occurred in the 80s in the same manner as Boz's crime, and the victim was Catherine's teacher. So the lead investigator requested a psychological assessment of Catherine and asked Nick to observe her. Her therapist was murdered too. Even her parents died in an accident and the reasons are unknown. Because the police didn't investigate the case at that time, Nick started following Catherine all over. He came to her house and she asked him to come in. He found a number of newspapers that talk about the 2 crimes he had committed and from which he had came out innocent. She said she used them to write a new book. When they went up, she asked him if he wanted to have a drink, and strangely, she cut ice with an ice pick violently. She asked him how he felt about someone being murdered. He told her it was only an accident. So she asked him what the motive was, and about the coke the day the tourists were shot. He got angry and left the place. He walked into his girlfriend's office upset and asked her about who had seen his secret file from inside the investigation office. She said Nelson. He went straight to him and started beating him and asked him how much Catherine paid him to see his file. After he came down, his friend caught up with him, and Nick told him that she was pursuing him and knew everything about him. At the same night, a crime took place. When he arrived, it turns out to be Nelson. The shot that killed him is the same as Nick's .38 gun. So he was interrogated. He lit a cigarette like Catherine and started to speak just like her with almost the same words. He then tells his colleague that it was Catherine who committed the crime, and she knows that nobody will believe him. Nick went to see her and he was acting like her. She told him he was aware of the crime and she started calling him Nikki as his wife. She knows everything about him and told him that she enjoys dating women and she already dated a university girl named Lisa Huberman. She gave him this book, which tells the story of a child who killed his parents and made it look like it was an accident. At night, after a good time, her friend Rocky tells him, "Stay away from her or I'll kill you." He told her she was the sexiest girl I'd ever met. He seemed to be caught in her trap. When he met his friend knew he had slept with her last night and he got angry. His friend is certain he's risking his life and she's about to kill him with an ice pick. But Nick said he wasn't scared of her and he had no idea why. After he got out, a car attacked him and tried to run him over. He pursued it and eventually rolled over. Then he found Rocky, who tried to kill him. When Nick went to Catherine's house, he found her grieving over the loss of her friend, with whom she slept several times. She told him everybody that he cared about dies. When he met his friend, he told him that he had lost the suspicion that she was a murderer. He apparently moved by her tears. When he went to look for the name of Lisa Huberman, he found his lover, Dr. Garner. He went to Garner and confronted her. She told him that she had sex with Catherine for once and that she was not a lesbian, but it was just an experience and Catherine is really sick. She has been following her everywhere and now wants to involve her in Boo's and Nelson murder case. When Nick went to see Catherine, she said that Garner was following her. In the archives, he found that Catherine reported Garner, but the report was taken by Nelson, which means victim John was murdered by Beth Garner to involve Catherine. The case was seen by Nelson and Beth Garner killed him to hide the truth and changed her name to clear the air. But does that mean that Beth Garner committed these murders, not Catherine? This is just a claim from Catherine and Nick seems to believe her a lot and has become madly on her defense. When he came to his house and found her there, she said, "Aren't you missing me?" He said no. She said, "My investigator book will be done soon and you will never miss me again." The next day, Nick went to the hospital where Beth Garner's husband works, and this lady told him that he was shot to death 6 years ago. When he went to this cop, he told him that he was killed by a .38 gunshot wound, and the police couldn't identify the perpetrator. Interestingly enough, this cop said that a certain Nelson came in a year ago and asked him the same question. He told him the cops were suspicious of Beth's girlfriend, but there was no incriminating evidence. When he went to her place, he found her book on paper. She told him, "I had finished my book." He asked her about the end of the book, and she said she killed him. Goodbye, Nick. The character is dead. It seems that their relationship is over, according to her words. He met his friend Gus and told him that he had found a Catherine's colleague from the university, who knew everything about her and was going to meet her. When they arrived at the place, Gus went upstairs, but Nick saw something. He tried to reach Gus, but Gus was stopped with an ice pick, and by the time he got there, it was too late. Nick heard movement. He grabbed Gus's gun and found Beth. He ordered her to raise her hands. She told him she came to meet Gus after she got a text from him to come here. He told her to raise her hands, but she wouldn't, so he shot her. Then it turns out she had keys in her pocket. Keys, not a gun. When the cops arrived, they found the murder tools, which turned out to belong to Beth. The ice pick is the murder weapon of choice. After an extensive investigation, all the evidence indicates that Beth is the one who committed all the crimes. Back home, he found Catherine looking sad and she told him that she no longer wanted to lose the one she knew and never wanted to lose him. Before he went to bed, he said we'd make love, but it looks like she's picking up something. Is it the ice pick? Oh gosh! Thankfully, there was nothing. See you in part 2.